Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, now with 100% fewer cartridges. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by Mark Mitchell. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing great.
I was at IKEA this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
standing in line to buy the shelf that I mentioned in the previous episode, and the boxes I mentioned in the previous episode, and the succulents I mentioned in the previous episode. And I could see the food. You know, they've got like that food on the way out where it's
Yeah.
like you can get a hot dog.
Or like lingonberry.
Pancakes or something. I don't know. Like a crepe that's rolled up. And they had $1 soft serve
Oh.
ice cream. I was momentarily tempted by it because it's only $1.
But just momentarily. You did not succumb.
Here's the thing. I was standing in a line and I was looking out onto another line and I was like, nice try. You ain't gonna trick me with ice cream.
I don't entirely understand, like, I was going to say the IKEA business model. I get it. But, like,
The food
where
part
does
of it,
ice cream fit in?
the food part
Like,
of it
why
is
cheap
very,
ice cream?
is very strange because it's like I do get that they're like, oh, you wanna, maybe this is it. I think I've explained it to myself that they want you to feel comfortable there and they want you to be able to spend all day there and not be like, I gotta spend how much on food I don't want to eat. Like, no, you spend $3.99 on like a plate of meatballs and like spaghetti. I don't know what this food is. I don't know what the food is at IKEA.
But, you know, the food's going to be fine. You
Right,
know?
right.
So, like, you're like, oh, it wasn't so bad. Like, yes, it took a long time getting there, and parking
is a nightmare, and then like you know that you're gonna have to like get your car and come up to like the loading area, which is like the worst place a human being can be.
But we're just making a day of it. Like, I'm going to get
Yes.
some lunch and some cheap soft serve, and the kids are going to go play in the kitty palace. And
Right, because there are kitty palaces everywhere. Here's a question I don't know the answer to. What is the bathroom situation like at IKEA? Decent? Do they have good bathrooms?
I've either never been in one, or they have left no impression on me at all.
So probably not notably good or bad. But I mean, this is a place where you are expected to spend a lot of time.
And it's like Grand Central Station. Like, there are tons of people going in and out all the time.
That's right. Trains.
So to try to keep like those bathrooms clean, like even if they're just fine,
Yeah.
that's an accomplishment.
I would. It's very strange to me that I've never been inside an IKEA bathroom.
You just may not remember.
Is
Maybe
that-
nobody remembers.
Is that possible?
If you remember going into an IKEA bathroom,
You should email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
But there are so many better things you can do with that email address. Get a hold of us so you can participate in Mark. We're doing something exciting.
really exciting.
We are going to be determining the 8 best NES games
Of all time.
of all time,
We're going to be doing this on November 8th,
right?
and we need your suggestions. And I'll tell you why. It's because we're only allowing one game per series on this list.
That's right. So while there are 6 Mega Man games on the NES, we can only include one, which means somehow we're going to have to choose between 2 and 3. Or none of them appear on this list.
Yeah, also very possible.
I will quit the show. No joke. If a non 2 or 3
Don't
Mega Man
say that.
I
Don't say
will,
that. You can't.
winds up on the list.
No, because
Someone can
there's
suggest
a
it.
distinct
If it winds
possibility.
up there,
I'm just
I
telling
will
you how
walk
far
out of my own
Jigglypuff made
house.
it. Jigglypuff made it in our best Smash ranking. I'm saying there is a possibility.
Yeah.
Anything
that's-
can happen in these rankings, and that's why we need your help.
That's right, because Mark and I are fools, and who knows what kind of roads we will lead you down. I'll put Wario's Woods on here 8 times. I don't care.
You're a monster. That's right. We didn't say there was no rule that a dog can't play basketball.
Right. The only rule is that only one game from each series, and we're talking NES here, so no Famicom games that didn't come to the
That's
States. We're talking just NES. 8 of them, November 8. I think it's clear what we're doing there. The numerology is rock solid there. Mark, another thing that people can do with that email address, which is, of course, Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com,
is they can try to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces.
And, like, we keep putting try in there, like, you know, like, you can try, but really, you can.
You can. I just mean that it is not an instant gratification thing at this point. There are several people on the list, and let me tell you, the turnaround time for one person getting a copy of my copy of this game, playing it for a while and sending it back to me, it's like 2 weeks sometimes. One time it was like 8 months. So, you know, your name is on a list, and someday maybe you get to play Sonic Forces.
But that's great. Like, put your name on the list, forget about it. One day Sonic Forces shows up at your house.
It's like when you make food in the crock pot, right?
Right. Or when you, it's like late at night and you accidentally order something on Amazon and then you forget about it.
Or when you leave $20 in your snow pants, and then the next time you go skiing, you remember you just get this free $20. So do yourself a favor and email us now to reward yourself later, maybe around Christmas time. Sonic Forces will be headed your way. Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. All right, Mark, let's get into our main topic of the week, which is, of course, the Nintendo Switch Online service. Okay, so first of all, it was sort of a foregone conclusion for both you and I that we were going to be subscribing to this thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How did you end up subscribing to it?
I purchased it through the eShop on the Switch.
And just you did a year?
Oh yeah, I just bought a year.
Single user.
Uh-huh.
I also did that. Thought for a second that like maybe you and I should go in on a family plan or whatever.
Actually, thinking about it now, I had not thought about this at all until this very moment. I maybe should have done a family plan because my mom bought a Switch for like her grandkids, and then I could just looped. Not that they necessarily need an online component,
but it would be nice for them to play Splatoon online or whatever.
Anyways, I ended up buying just the single one.
Because here's the thing, and again, I cannot stress enough how little money it costs to subscribe to this thing.
Comparatively, for sure.
But I mean, if you break it out, it's like 38 cents a week. Like, that's nothing. That's not money. So yeah, $20. And I mean, the other thing that when it first flitted through my head that I should just do a family plan with you is that you can only order one set of the NES controllers per account.
Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly how that worked because I wasn't sure if account meant like member of a family plan.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's fine. We both spend $20.
Not a big deal.
Not a
again.
Not a
it's
huge
not
deal.
Money. We then went on to spend $60
immediately. I think with shipping it comes to like $74 or something.
That's right.
For the NES controllers, which I absolutely bought the minute I was able to.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm actually gonna be honest. I'm glad I did because I don't own a Pro controller, so I've been playing the NES games with the Joy-Con. And it's the first time
with
that
the two Joy-Cons, or with like a single.
I guess with two, but the same problem, which is just like it's the first time that people have been complaining about the D-pad or lack of a D-pad on the Joy-Cons for a long time.
Yeah,
and it never bothered me, but this is the first time that I was like, yeah, this like 4-button thing works. It's serviceable, but it really is not like an optimal replacement for a D-pad.
That's interesting because my like specific complaint with playing the NES games on the Switch controllers as they are is less to do with the left hand and more to do with the right hand. Just the button placement on the original NES controllers, the B and A button in that order. B and A are right next to each other as like part of a continuous horizontal line, and the B button is mapped to both the X and I guess also B button, the top and bottom buttons on the Switch controllers, and then the A button is always the A button. And it's just not how my thumb sort of like lays out naturally, so that like running and jumping feels a little bit unnatural for me in like the Super Mario Brothers games. And I just like if when I get those NES controllers and I just have the B button right next to that A button, that's exactly what I want and exactly what I need
I
for it to feel right.
I think when those controllers, we'll have to compare ship dates because I'm curious if like people have different ship dates,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, in like
that's
the confirmation emails or whatever. But I think when I get those, I will have more NES controllers in my home now than I have ever had or ever owned. Full stop. My entire life.
Which is just 3, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true actually.
Yeah, because we each only got one with our NES classics because they did not provide an adequate number of additional controllers, and then we'll have 2 from this. Yeah, it in part of my going to IKEA this weekend was to like get some things off of surfaces and like just sort of like tidy things up, and so we got rid of like a little nightstand thing that we used to keep by the couch that I just had sort of filled with various controllers. And you know, I've got 4 Super Nintendo controllers, 2 for the SNES Classic, 2 for like the real Super Nintendo. The NES controller, there'll be 2 more NES controllers. I've got the Switch Pro controller, or yes, that's right. The Wii U gamepad, and it's just like there's so many. And I guess it's because I have a lot of these systems, but like I don't know, just thinking about that's one more set of controllers that look exactly the same as something I already have. I don't know. I feel a little bit like a sucker, but also I want them.
Yeah, I'm a knowing sucker.
Yeah.
Like as soon as those things were announced, it was like I am 100% buying them, and I do not need these in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And we know that they are only going to be compatible with the NES Online.
I know this up front. I just want to look at them. That's all I want them for.
Yeah, and I think I will use them
I
to
think
play.
I will use them too, for sure.
Yeah. So do we want to get into our experiences with the Nintendo Entertainment System Online, or are there other like aspects of the online like sign up or anything that you want to talk about first?
Well, I guess the only thing I'll say about Nintendo Switch Online as a program is that before it was released, I think I personally was like expecting more of a to do about here is Nintendo Switch Online, here's like all the features it's going to have, and they ended up doing like a really short segment in the direct, and I feel like that was the appropriate amount of, for lack of a better term, like hype around the Nintendo Switch Online, because there is basically no functional difference whether from having the Nintendo Switch Online or not having the Nintendo Switch Online, at least in my life. Like, I know that my cloud saves are being backed up or whatever, but it's like...
I mean, we did both play Splatoon 2 this weekend. We wouldn't have been able to do that.
No, that's absolutely true. But it's like, I mean from like, you went from Switch OS version 5.0 to like 6.0, and it's like, there was no grand reveal. Like, you did not turn on your Switch and it felt like a brand new experience.
Right. It didn't feel like a living ecosystem.
Yeah, which is fine. Like, it totally fine. But I don't know. I think for some reason this Nintendo Switch Online service got caught up in like the internet's hype cycle.
Yeah.
And so there were like varying degrees of hype for like what this was going to be, and it's just an online system. It works fine. I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there is something to be said for, and again, this is maybe just like the thing catching up with where it should have been all along, or just catching not even all the way that far, but that more games have been added to the voice chat that you can use with the app. Which, again, it's a pain in the butt to have to, lug your phone out and open an app that won't let you navigate away from it to actually talk with someone. But I do like that it went from being just Splatoon to being like Splatoon and ARMS and Mario Kart, and the NES Online thing as well. So like if you do want to use that functionality, it is available on more games. I'm still not really sure how like it is preferable to any other method of communicating with someone that you're playing a game with, like through Discord or Skype or whatever.
Yeah. And there were also some things that like we didn't know about that turned out to be like a feature, like similar to how you can do on PlayStation and maybe Xbox, I'm not even sure. Is
who cares?
You can set your like your main Switch as your primary console, but then you can also assign one as like a secondary console that can play all of the games that you own on the eShop.
Yeah, which is pretty cool that you can physically download those games on other Switches, and then play them when you're logged in as you. Perfect for like a family situation or anywhere where you've got multiple Switches around the house.
Or if I guess it would work right if your like Switch completely died and you need to get a second one, like you would now have like cloud saves for most of it, and then you'd be able to like get your games from the eShop.
Yeah, I mean it's that, and that is of course nothing that Nintendo thought to share with its users, and was just sort of discovered after the
and it's kind of like
live.
Table stakes for an online system.
Yeah, that's right.
So nice that it's there, but not like earth shattering.
Yeah, so which I think brings us to like the one like really unique thing about this service, which is the Nintendo Entertainment System Online, which not something that downloads automatically when you sign up for the Switch Online service. It is a separate download, which as the weeks go on is going to get buried in the eShop.
Well, also strange that you could download it before you signed up for Switch Online.
Yeah.
Or before it was like available.
Yeah, it just otherwise just looked like a free thing that you were downloading. And the logo for it is a little weird, right? That it's like a red box. Look, I'm saying it's our logo.
Yeah, it looks eerily like our logo.
And sure, we stole a lot of the colors, words, and shapes on our logo from Nintendo.
They could shut our podcast down at any moment if they wanted to.
But we will never die. Mark, have we missed a week ever?
We haven't, but we shouldn't call it out lest something terrible happens.
All right, fair enough. We will never miss a week. We will be here I say I'm joined as always by my co-host Mark Mitchell, and I say it every time because it's always true, and it's always going to be true.
I actually think that at the beginning of this episode, you did not say those exact words.
What did I say?
You left out the co-host part.
Oh.
Joined as always by Mark Mitchell.
Well, I apologize.
I mean, I'm furious.
Okay, what did you do first when you got the Nintendo Online? Like, what was the first game that you went to? You were like, I'm going to christen my Nintendo Switch NES Online by playing
Super Mario Brothers 3,
which easily remains the best of the NES games that's on here.
Yes. Although, I've got to tell you, Patrick.
Tell me.
After not being, and again, having lots of opportunity to, after not being much of a Dr. Mario player, I got like deep into Dr. Mario this weekend.
Mark, this tickles me tremendously.
Like the type of playing Dr. Mario where your eyes start to feel funny.
Yes.
And like the colors are all wrong.
Yes.
And you're like, for my health, I should look away from this screen.
I mean, Dr. Mario is one of the all-time great video games, period, in any form that it comes out in. It is amazing that it's part of this collection and that you can go online and play with your friends. Yeah, Dr. Mario's a great game. So is that where you spent most of your time?
It probably is where I spent most of the time. And part of that is actually one of the things that I like dock the NES Online for.
Yeah.
Is they did such a good job with the NES Classic Edition and the SNES Classic Edition with like the presentation, but also even though you had to go online to view them, you had the manuals for every single one of those games. In Virtual Console, normally they have like the manuals, right? Like you are able to like go and view them.
Yeah, and like sometimes they were even like scans of it, like that they would even be sort of crummy scans, so that like it had a very like real physical quality to it.
So as far as I can tell, there is like no manual for any of the games in the NES Online.
That's my read on it too.
There's no like there's a description of the game, but there is no like how to play. There's no controller map. So I could find. So I mean there is a controller map where it shows you a Switch controller is like this is B, this is start,
A, right?
But it doesn't tell you like in this game B does this and in this game A does this. So I booted up Ice Hockey, played it for a little bit, actually enjoyed it, but I hit a wall where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I guess I could Google this to like find out what the controls are supposed to be, but I didn't know what the buttons did. And playing it, I couldn't really like figure it out.
Right. Well, because like one of them is I think it's like A that passes when you're on offense and switches the character you're controlling when you're on defense, and then B is like shoot, which just always like goes towards the goal. But like there are also, and I don't know which button would do it, but like there are contexts where like you can start fighting with other hockey players, and like different things that the goalie can do, and like there are a lot of times where like, and like in my memory, like the select button is more like used more regularly than so like I just don't remember exactly how like what the conventions were at the time to get more button inputs out of a 2-button controller.
It just feels like a really weird omission to me.
Yeah, I think that's right, because like a lot of these games are pretty obtuse, like soccer and tennis and all of the sports games really. Maybe because baseball for sure. And ice hockey as well. Maybe because like the overall rules of the game are just like understood because it's a sports game, so you're just playing by the rules of the sport, that it doesn't feel the need to like demonstrate how you play the game.
I guess it feels a little bit to me like when you were a kid and you would go to a video rental store, and you would rent a video game, but it didn't have the manual, so you were like, I don't know what's supposed to be going on here.
Yeah. Oh man, what a weird like relic, right? Where like here you have the entirety of the thing and like you just can't figure out what it is or what you're supposed to do. But yeah, I also got that sensation a couple times while interacting with a lot of these games.
And I think the reason why it's a little bit frustrating or like feels like a miss is because they've done it well previously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing that feels a little bit frustrating about this particular list of games is that it is largely games from the first couple years of the NES's life. Basically with the exception of Super Mario Brothers 3, which, like I said, is hands down the best game in here, with the possible exception of Dr. Mario, of course. But like, every other game feels so simple by comparison, right? Even something that's a little bit deeper, like River City Ransom or like Double Dragon, like these all end up being pretty simple games without a ton of depth to them, with the exception of, I guess, the original Mario Brothers and Zelda are also a little bit more complicated. But these feel like the most surface level NES experiences that we could be getting, or at least that's how I'm feeling at the moment. I want the additional titles to start rolling in.
Yeah, and the fact that there's seemingly for the foreseeable future just going to be 3 a month, and the ones that they have laid out through December like don't really excite me all that much.
Is in there.
Wario's Woods is in there. Metroid is in there, so it's not that there aren't heavy hitters. I'm just feeling a little bit of like fatigue a bit.
Yeah.
It's like there are some stone cold classics in here, but I don't know. It's hard for me to get like excited for this implementation of it, because it was super awesome to play Super Mario Brothers 3 in handheld mode on the Switch. But you've been able to play Super Mario Bros. 3 on a handheld for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And like the online features, they don't like, I'm not going to use them very often. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
it's like a novelty for me personally.
Yeah, I keep popping into I'll start a game online. Like I'll go into the get online and like just open a room and like let anyone, which is not anyone, it's just your friends, join. And like I've got a good number of friends on Switch, but like how many are playing NES online at the time that I'm playing ice hockey and want to like hop in. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a super useful implementation there.
Well, and you're not able to like send a message to another friend who's online and be like, "Hey, you can't invite them into your game, can you?"
Yeah, you could, but I think they need to already be playing the NES Classic Edition or whatever it's called.
Right, because there's no
Online.
like system level messages between users on Switch,
which would be necessary. But I mean, like even it's so when I go online and I set up a room, I think that there should be like my other friends on Switch should like have a little alert that when they're on, be like, oh, if you want to play a game with Patrick, like he's created a room right now, or something like. Otherwise, it seems like you just need to be coordinating everything else on through different means. And you're never going to accidentally like wind up playing with your friend or just sort of like incidentally playing Dr. Mario against each other. It's just never going to happen.
Right. Well, especially like a lot of my friends on my Switch friends list are listeners of the show who have added us. It's like, I don't really have other means to contact these people. Right. So,
I mean, they can always email you at Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com, but that's going to be a slow process because they'd have to email you or email us,
right?
Be like,
I check the email.
You check the email.
Sometimes I forward it on to you.
And so if somebody's like, "Hey, I have a game of Mario Brothers that you should get into my lobby," it's gonna be slow going.
Yeah, but I'm just gonna put this out there. Every time that I play the NES Online, I create a room and let anyone join it. So if you see me playing a game, just hop in and we'll hang out. I'm fine with that. That sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, and I'll do the same thing too.
There we go. And Mark is Ace. He appears as Ace. I appear as Patrick. And right now my avatar is Kirby. And is yours still KK Slider?
No. I'm a Goomba with a mustache.
Perfect. Mark. Perfect. Were there any other? Dr. Mario was a little bit of a surprise for you. Were there any other surprises here, like games that you were like, oh, and had more fun with than you thought you were going to?
No, I mean, I checked out a bunch of games for a few seconds.
Yeah.
And then we're just kind of like, oh, I don't have any desire to play this any further.
Does that feel like a little bit of a curse to you of like having the ability to play a game for a couple of seconds and then being like, oh, I'm not immediately enjoying this. I'm going to move on. I don't mean this as a criticism.
No, not at all. I'm. What do you mean like a curse?
So like when we were kids and someone handed you a copy of Balloon Fight, like you just had to play Balloon Fight for the afternoon.
Oh, sure,
and
right.
You discover like that there are like complexities to it and that there are different game modes that are interesting and fun. And actually, getting to a certain point and dying and then starting over and like doing a little bit better in every single part of it until like there's a whole game in front of you.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And it's not just these retro games. In the previous episode, we talked about Valkyria Chronicles 4.
That's right.
That came out on the Switch, the tactical RPG. I generally do not have the patience and have never really enjoyed tactical RPGs. I played the demo for this one. It seemed nice, but it was like, I'm not going to take the time to learn the systems, and so that is an entire genre of games that I am just writing off wholesale as like something that is not for me.
Yeah.
When I haven't really experienced it.
Right. Because look, if you don't want to play strategy games, you don't have to.
Right, exactly. You
can still have a rich gaming life.
Right, but there is like a little bit of that where it does feel like, yeah, I wish somebody would make me eat, my vegetables and like force me to play Galaxia or Gradius or whatever it's called. It's
Gradius.
Yeah, Gradius.
someone to make me call them daddy. Speaking of making me call them daddy, I opened up Ice Climber and was like, all right, let's play this game. Let's play Ice Climber. Let's like give it the old college try.
Because you and I tried on the NES Classic Edition. We tried
and we stopped
co-op
pretty early.
mode.
Yeah. And well, the way the game controls is infuriating. And the way they jump is so counter to the way I think characters should jump in 2D space. They jump so high. But move so little from left to right. And once you start a jump, you are committed to it, and that's just the end of it. Once you sort of like wrap your head around that, it is not a bad like arcade. I even hesitate to call it a platformer. It's really more like trying to think your way ahead of the, various obstacles that are there. And it's like kind of a fun game.
I mean, it's basically Catherine is what you're saying, right?
I'm saying
Catherine is like
it's like Catherine. That's if they
is an M-rated.
Oh my god!
Remake.
If they just did a mashup of Ice Climbers and Catherine, Mark, let's start writing letters to Atlas. They need to do this. It's a perfect game where the blue Ice Climber is cheating on the pink one.
Do you know what I also found? Where like the physics were not what I remembered it being, and maybe because most of my experience with it was the Super Mario Brothers 3 iteration was Mario Brothers. Like the jump physics in that game do not work like a Mario game do.
No, I do think that the most perfect version of the original Mario Brothers is within Super Mario Brothers 3.
But that's a surprisingly fun game.
Oh yeah,
Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that the Mario Brothers 3 version is like the superior implementation, but it's a really fun like game. I don't really even know what genre you would call it.
Yeah, I don't really either. It's so like
it's
reverse
its own weird thing.
It is. I mean, it kind of falls under just that like arcade, like it and Donkey Kong, and I would say even Ice Climber and Balloon Fight. These are all very like single screen experiences, and I know Ice Climber scrolls up, but not a lot. All of these experiences just feel very arcadey and they're quick experiences that when you're just trying to get a good score, and when it's over, it's over. Yeah, it's an interesting set of games here. I think for me the biggest disappointments are the sports games, with the exception, of course, of ice hockey, which is wonderful. Yeah, I tried to play soccer and tennis and baseball, and I mean, I know when I'm pitching the ball, I know when I'm swinging the bat, and I know that when I'm sending one guy out to like try to catch that pop fly, but like I don't know what's going on.
Here's the thing: is that baseball and like tennis, like those were never great games.
Yeah,
there was never a time when baseball was an awesome baseball video game.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
or even just an awesome video game. It wasn't like a thing that you were excited to do. It was a thing that like you had to do.
Yeah,
it's the only thing you had.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've been like kind of down on it the whole time, even though, it's awesome to be able to play these games on the Switch.
Yeah,
I'm very happy to see that there is some sort of NES classic games on this. I don't even, what I'm saying?
The terminology is getting harder and harder.
But I'm glad that this exists. It feels, it's just a little disappointing. The library's a little disappointing. It's disappointing to me that it's just NES games with no, SNES games or other, like Game Boy games or anything in the future.
Yeah. Well, and I also, we come from having this 30 game NES Classic, and then to like be sort of kicked down to 20 games. It's still a lot of games, of course.
But most of those I do not care about at all.
Most of them I do not care about at all, and the ones I do care about are available on that thing. It's just like really the only thing that's like new and exciting there is ice hockey.
Well, and we're coming from like a virtual console that on the Wii U and on the 3DS and on the Wii, that it had a huge library
Yeah.
of really like solid, awesome games.
The difference here, of course, being that you don't have to pay any money to. I mean, you had to pay for the online service, but like if you wanted to try out baseball and have your 4 seconds with it and say, "Okay, I get it. I don't need to play this anymore," you would have to buy that on the Wii for $5.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. It's just that they have taken away Virtual Console,
Sure.
and this is the like I guess the replacement, and it's like both seem like they could coexist.
Yeah.
I could pay $8 for Chrono Trigger and then also get baseball for as part of my Nintendo Switch Online subscription.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that we are seeing like some of that, right? Like that's why we get like the Mega Man Legacy collections. That's why we're getting all of these Final Fantasy games coming to Switch. Like I think other companies are finding their own ways around it. And I mean, I don't know if Nintendo ever will we ever see fit? Will they ever see fit to put like the original Paper Mario on Switch? And when is that part of a N64 online bundle package thing? You know, what is that? What form does that take? I think we're way too early days to even really know. I brought up the games that are coming up in the next month. If you're interested in talking about those at all, in October it's Solomon's Key, NES Open, and Super Dodgeball. Dodgeball I know is a fun game. I won't play NES Open because it's golf. And Solomon's Key,
I don't know enough about, so
maybe that's interesting. November is Metroid, Mighty Bomb Jack, and Twinbee. No idea what Twinbee even is. And in December it is Wario's Woods, woo, Ninja Gaiden, and The Adventures of Lolo. December is the money month, as far as I'm concerned. Those are 3 good games.
Yeah, and I'm excited to play some of these that I've never played before. I guess really what it comes down to is I'm just a little frustrated that like the Nintendo builds up these libraries in Virtual Console, then hits the reset button, then builds up these libraries in Virtual Console, and then hits the reset button.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, how long are we going to have to wait until like Super Mario Brothers 2 USA shows up? How long are we going to have to, it's just like months, and it just feels so unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, look, they already put out Star Tropics 2 on the Wii Virtual Console. They should just bring all these things. Yeah, I mean, you're right that it is very frustrating that it's been on 3 different platforms already, that we've seen the Virtual Consoles grow separately 3 separate times, and now we have to basically witness the same thing again. Sorry, I'm just thinking this through. The service itself is just called Nintendo Entertainment System Online, right? It is not in name tied to the Switch.
I actually think technically the name is Nintendo Entertainment System Switch Online, is I think what the logo says on the Switch.
Nintendo Entertainment System Nintendo Switch Online. Yes, Mark, you are correct. So we'll just watch this one get built up, and then it too will be ripped to pieces when we eventually move on to whatever we move on to next. Mark, speaking of moving on, is it time that we move on?
I think so.
All right, let's do it. All right, I'm going to do a thing here because I need to cue up music. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Wait a minute. Maybe we need to stop for a second. If you are having... I want to hear everyone else's experience with the Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo Switch Online, or just the online service in general. What are you most frustrated by? What are you being pleasantly surprised by? Write to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com
and let us know what's up. If you like this episode, we would love for you to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It helps us out tremendously. Share the episode however you share things. It's the only way that other people are going to find the show, and we like it when people find the show. You like it, right, Mark?
I love it.
Mark, ooh, whoa, up in the ante on me a little bit. You should follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MK Mitchell. The show is at NinCart Society. We are on Facebook, and that is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on ReckonPunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening. And Mark, thank you for being my co-host.
Campfire.